Kia ora, good evening. SBS Bank have reported an operating surplus of 5.4% for the 2014 financial year. The $22 million profit result is a near record profit year for the bank. The profit comes from increasing both operating surplus and lending, as well as the creation of a centralised lending team and the launch of an upgraded internet banking service. Bigger product range and increased branding have also helped in the substantial profit, according to SBS Bank Chief Executive Ross Smith. He says the move to create a centralised lending unit based in Invercargill to support all mortgage brokers throughout New Zealand has added to the bank's success. A new piece of legislation designed to reduce the risk of unwanted contact between victims and offenders passed its final reading in Parliament yesterday.
The Victims' Orders Against Violent Offenders Bill can be applied to a person who has been sentenced to more than 2 years in prison for a specific violent or sexual offence. The orders may also prohibit the offender from contacting the victim in any way, including by electronic means. Where necessary, the orders can ban the offender from entering, living or working in a particular area. Victims will be able to apply to the court for a non-contact order at any time after the offender has been sentenced. An order can also cover an offender's associates.
Meanwhile, the rate of offenders returning to jail is dropping, with a 3% fall in the last year. Increased rehabilitation support services for prisoners have been significant, with a 1,500% increase in places on drug and alcohol treatment programs for prisoners in the past 7 years. Educational screening and individual learning programs are also delivering positive results, with a 155% increase in the number of prisoners starting literacy and numeracy programs and an 830% jump in prisoner numbers gaining qualifications. Correction has a target of 25% reduction in reoffending by 2017. It costs $100,000 per year to keep an offender in jail. There are almost 1,400 neighbourhood support households making up 107 groups in the city, and City Council Community Development Manager Mary Napper says the number is growing. Mrs Napper is encouraging more to become involved in what's more than a crime prevention measure. She says it's important to maintain community connections. Hunter Andrews spoke to her earlier today.
Sometimes a group will go into recess, maybe a number of people move to another street and they'll start one up in that street. But the new people, takes a wee while to get them going again.
What are the benefits for people sitting at home going, well, I remember it as a neighbourhood watch years ago and things, but what are the differences and benefits now?
Okay, well, it's really now about connecting people. It's about people talking to the neighbours, talking to the person over the street, letting people know if you're going to be away for a day or two. Letting them know if maybe you've got a health issue so that they can look and see if your blinds have been opened in the morning, or maybe they need to come and knock on your door and just make sure you're okay. It's got the crime prevention aspect to it, of course, so that you all know to ring 111 if there's something that you're not sure about. And you've got a telephone tree so that you can ring around each other and say, oh, have you noticed that car? I think it's been parked there for 2 days. Shouldn't we do something about it? So there's a whole lot of benefits, but mainly it's just about people connecting to each other and talking to each other. And unfortunately, that sometimes doesn't happen. Yes,
we do live insular lives, don't we? We sometimes just jump in our car, go to work and have very little contact with those living around us in our immediate environment.
Yeah, exactly. And often parents will say to me that it's the children that actually create the connections, because the children will talk to the other children in the street, whilst the adults are just too busy getting on with parenting and earning a living and things. So we'd encourage anyone who's even wants to find out a bit more about it, a bit nervous perhaps about commitment, give the council a call, either ask for myself, Mary, or ask to talk to somebody about neighbourhood support, and we'll tell you what process we used to see if it's going to work for your street. And we're always looking for new ways of doing it, so we don't have to do it the same in every street. We can always come up with a new way of doing it. It may be that you just want to connect with emails rather than telephones, or whatever. We all want to learn new ways.
And of course there could already be a group operating in your area and you would pass that info on.
Absolutely. So in some big streets, like a Tweed Street, there may be 2 or 3 groups already, so we can connect you with what's already happening. Or it may be that the street behind you is already connected. And so you might be keen to be part of that until we get more people encouraged on your street. We also have a newsletter that we put out about 3 times a year, and so that always got lots of information from the fire service, from the police, from Emergency Southland, because it's also about being prepared for other types of emergency.
And of course the social aspect, of course, you can get all together and talk about things.
Absolutely, and we have some streets that do have regular little gatherings. We have one street that's banded together and they've bought a weed eater thing, and so they can all borrow that and zap along the long grass and things like that. Instead of everybody having to have their own zip zapper, they've just got one communal one that's looked after and maintained. So there's all kinds of advantages from being involved.
Still to come on the bulletin, a funding boost for an iconic southern structure, plus news items from SIT's journalism students. Welcome back. Visitor arrivals to New Zealand reached a high in May, partly due to more tourists from the United States and Japan.
In the May 2014 year, visitor arrivals reached 2.78 million, up 6% on the previous year, with the top 4 visitor sources Australia, China, United States and the United Kingdom. New Zealand residents leaving for overseas trips in May this year totalled 198,200, up 9% on May 2013. Over the past 12 months, Kiwis took 2.3 million trips, a 3% increase on the previous year. New Zealand had a seasonally adjusted gain of 4,000 migrants in the May month and has been positively increasing since September 2012. The seasonally adjusted net loss of 200 migrants to Australia in May 2014 is the same as April this year. In the May 2014 year, migrant arrivals numbered 99,900, a 14% increase from 2013. The migrant departures fell 22% to 63,500, leaving a net gain of 36,400 migrants, the highest annual gain in over 10 years.
A significant piece of New Zealand's heritage in Riverton has received a $50,000 funding boost from the Lotteries Environment and Heritage Committee. Kohi Kohi Cottage was the first permanent European residence in Riverton, dating back to 1837, and was built by Captain John Hull. The Southland Heritage Building and Preservation Trust became the owner of the cottage in 2006. It's the oldest wooden cottage in Southland and one of the few structures in New Zealand built prior to the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi in 1840. Southland Heritage Building and Preservation Trust trustee Maureen Fox says the Trust's vision was to return it as far as they could to its former glory. The total Stage 1 project, its cost is almost $92,500, of which $72,000 has been raised, including the Lotteries grant, plus $20,000 from the Stouts Trust and $2,000 from the Southland District Council Community Initiatives Fund. Time now for a couple of items produced locally at the Southern Institute of Technology by the digital media and journalism students. Recently, Venture Southland Enterprise Project Manager Robin McNeil returned from San Francisco and announced further expansion of the Planet Labs Awarua ground station. Journalism student Matt Coley with more.
When Planet Labs satellites doves fly, they circle the entire Earth and take a pic for you while they're up there.
So the spacecraft download their information as they come over. They've got about a 10-minute window where they can see the spacecraft. They've got a 5-metre antenna over in the radome. Some initial processing goes on there. Then we've got a microwave radio link over to open country, and from there it's fibre optic and goes on the internet over to San Francisco.
Robin McNeil says Southland met important criteria for Planet Labs' choice of location.
We have to have low radio noise, we have to have good horizons, in other words it's got to be flat. Also it's very useful to be towards the South Pole, because a lot of spacecraft are what's called polar orbiting. They go over the North and South Poles.
The assembling of overseas parts takes place at Aroa.
The equipment they're using for the current contracts come from CGC in England. There's quite a burgeoning space industry around Oxford. The parts come here in big boxes and we put them all together here on site with local forces.
Planet Labs have fully funded this project and will be funding more radomes at the Aroa ground station.
We're looking for another 1 or 2 here, just depends on a few things. They'll be expanding in England as well, and they've got probably another 2 or 3 stations around the world they'll eventually install.
Planet Labs will be developing software for commercial use.
So if you're a farmer, we'd like to get to the position where we can provide data for what's going on in his paddocks. It should be possible with a later version of the Planet Labs spacecraft to know more about how much dry matter feed there is in a paddock, measured from 600 or 300, 400 kilometres up, than if the farmer was to go over the paddock and measure it himself and sampling.
With over 200 mini CubeSats priced at nearly $100,000 each, you can be rest assured that this is a well-financed international space project. This is Matt Coley reporting for Newsweek.
Now here's Wetene Rapana with a story about 5 up-and-coming filmmakers from Invercargill's Verdon College.
Well, as part of the Gifted and Talented program here at Verdon, kids are encouraged to follow their passion, so we call it passion learning. And for those 5 boys, their passion is filmmaking.
Hi, my name is Vic. I am 15 years old, and last week my mother was murdered. My stepfather has been locked up for it. Today, I have an appointment with a detective. I am being interrogated as a witness.
Using the group name Blue Road Productions, the team of Year 11 students shot the footage for their short film during the same week as their school production.
Yeah, we just had to get all our filming done in one night, which was frustrating, but we got there.
To make matters worse, the team had to finish their project 3 days earlier than the cut-off date due to an expiring subscription to the video editing software, Adobe Premiere Pro.
Well, it made it much more rushed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had, I think we finished filming on like the 25th of May, and the editing program expired on the 28th of May. So we were very rushed for time by that point, and we had to do editing within like 2 days.
Yeah, because Liam was editing as we filmed as well, because we just had to get it all done. So we did like half, and then Liam would start editing the first bit, then he'd get us over, and then the next bit.
Yeah, I had to film all the behind the scenes footage and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The team has had no shortage of challenges, from making the short film on no budget at all, to staying up until 3 AM retaking shots, but managed to complete their film in time and enjoy themselves during the production process.
It's a lot of fun, really, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it's hard work, it is fun to get everything done and then have like a sense of pride once you finish your project.
Denunciation is the first project Blue Roads Productions have worked together on, although members of the team have collaborated on separate projects such as the Green Screen Awards, won by Environment Southland. The team are hoping to collaborate on future projects and explore more opportunities to hone their cinematography.
They are just becoming more and more enthusiastic and looking for more venues, you know, to show their films, and also competitions for them to enter.
This is Wetene Rapana for Newsweek.
Great stuff. We hope to have more items from those students in the future. Sport follows the weather, which is up next from the news team. Good night.